Hello everybody, welcome to the Comic Gaming Movie Show. My name is Deshaun and today I am here to talk about X-Men 97 and actually even more than that on Marvel animation in general, because between X-Men 97 and What If, which are the first two projects of the new era of Marvel animation, because for a long time Marvel animation has kind of been all over the place. Mostly because, well, obviously Fox owns some of the stuff, and Sony owns some of the stuff, so you end up with situations like Spectacular Spider-Man getting canceled because Disney doesn't want to push it. It's not something they made, so then it gets canceled. You end up with stuff like X-Men, Wolverine and the X-Men, which was a great animated show, getting canceled for very similar reasons. Other than numbers, obviously. Because those shows were doing outrageous numbers, they'd have no choice but to keep continuing them. But, so then that's why the last Spider-Man animated series they came out with, I believe it was just Spider-Man Flat. It was a Disney one, and it was okay. It was okay. But I am a huge fan of animation. Anyone who's ever talked to me knows that. I've said it a billion times on this channel that I love animation. I love the potential of animation. Animation, you can do anything with animation. Live action, there's things you can do live action, but animation is where the limits of your imagination can go. So when I heard they were going to bring back one of the legendary animated shows, the 90s X-Men the Animated Series, and that show, alongside with the Batman Animated Series and to a lesser extent Spider-Man Animated Series, they really pushed the limits of which kind of stories you could tell for children. I mean, while Batman was straight up talking about murder and drug addictions and things of that nature, this show was talking about the original X-Men show, just like the original X-Men project was ahead of its time in terms of the just the social messaging in there. Anything from racism to sexism to just, being, I mean, obviously the allegory of the mutants to any minority, not being, what's the word I'm looking for? Just put in a box, or just being judged based on something that you have no control over. Which obviously the X-Men were allegories for a lot of that, especially civil rights movements. A lot of people know this, a lot of people don't. Stan Lee was a big person in the civil rights movement, though the X-Men didn't start off as, allegories for, those kinds of things. They became that. Stan Lee quickly saw that it was becoming that, and was like, yeah, that makes perfect sense to me. Obviously, the correlation between Professor X being more Martin Luther King and Magneto being more Malcolm X have always kind of been in the world. But yeah, that old 90s show, they did a lot of things. They pushed a lot of buttons. Now, they couldn't do but so much. I often used to because when the Disney Plus first came out, one of the first things everyone did was watch the original X-Men the Animated Series. Especially at that time, like 2020. I think, what was it, 2019 and 2020? At that time, you couldn't really find an animated series anywhere. Like, not really. So finding all the episodes in one location was dope. So everyone binge-watched X-Men the Animated Series. I was also one of those. And one of the only few things that were other than the dialogue, was one, at the time, the 90s, they had this weird thing going on where heroes couldn't throw punches. It's very strange. That's why you got a lot of kicks. Like, got a lot of kicks to the gut, and you got a lot of freaking hip tosses and shit. If you watch one of those old animated series, like, there's just a lot of that. So that was bothersome. The dialogue was weird. And the obvious, the love, they couldn't really push things the way they wanted to. Like, the love triangle between Wolverine, Jean, and Cyclops, they couldn't push it the way they probably wanted to, because it's made for a kid, and, like, you don't want to promote certain things. I say all these things to say that somehow X-Men 97 not only lives up to the hefty legacy it surpasses it. It is so much better than the original show that it's not even funny, almost not worth comparing, because it just takes everything that works about that original show and just goes, okay, we're going to mature it up a bit. We're going to obviously better animation, because just because of the times alone, it's going to be better animation, but they really push it. Better animation, better fight sequences, more rich stories, because back in the day in that 90s show, although they were pushing all these things like inclusion and acceptance, you know, all these different things, prejudice, all these different things, they could only surface level push it. For instance, in the original show, they never really said Magneto was a Holocaust survivor. Holocaust makes people uncomfortable. It's a topic that makes people uncomfortable. Hell, they were talking about taking the topic out of schools, man. The Holocaust makes people uncomfortable. And obviously they don't want kids thinking about that. Even though in the 90s it wouldn't have been that as much easy as it is today for kids to get access to information, but whatever. Like, they didn't want kids thinking about that. X-Men 97 just outright says, no, he is a Holocaust survivor. They show the mark, they show the numbers on his arm. They don't hesitate. They don't really back down from, you know, the more mature stuff. They don't push it too far. This isn't Invincible, which I love Invincible, but this isn't that. This isn't, they're not pushing it, but they just added so much more maturity to it. They really got into, like, the love triangle between Jean and Wolverine and Cyclops. They really got to touch that a little bit more heavier. They really got to really get into that just a tad. Although Wolverine, for the most part, was ironically kind of sidelined this season. Like, I get it. I do. A lot of comic people, particularly like a lot of the hardcore purists, they really hate how much Wolverine, as most of you know, my favorite superhero of all time. A lot of people will hate how much he kind of took over the entirety of the X-Men. Hell, I even say one of the best animated shows they came out with in the last 10 years or so was Wolverine and the X-Men. All disclosure, I still think, personally, it is still Wolverine and the X-Men. But, you know, they sidelined him a little bit this season. He was kind of a supporting character this time. He wasn't the main guy. Honestly, he was like literally the biggest important thing he did was get fucked up. Like, that's literally the big moment Wolverine had this season. Because other than that, he really didn't do anything but, like, lose the girl twice. Because, like, minor spoilers. I mean, it's the first episode, so I don't mind really spoiling it. Like, they ripped this straight out of the comics. I didn't think they were going to do this. So in the comics, Jean gets replaced by a clone of herself named Madeline Pryor. Now, I knew about this shit. It was old comic, but I knew about it. It's one of those things that's like in comics where you're just like, that's kind of stupid. You're not going to really do that because Scott's banging Madeline Pryor. He doesn't know he's banging a clone of his wife. She gets pregnant, has Cable, but the real Jean shows up. Craziness entangles there. Madeline becomes a bad guy for a short period. Then she becomes a good guy again. It's a whole fucking thing, and it's weird. And I can't believe they actually did it. They actually, I was like, are y'all gonna do that weird thing? Oh, they are gonna do that weird thing from the comics. Okay, cool. But, so that happens, and there's a lot that fucking going on this season. I really don't want to spoil it for you guys, because I really want you to go and watch it. X-Men 97 is not only one of the best superhero properties, it's one of the best shows I've seen this year. It has everything in it. Amazing animation, great action, great characters, great growth. The stuff they did with Cyclops. By the way, I'm gonna just like, this might be the final thing I say on it. They redeemed Cyclops. Because Cyclops, my man, has taken a hit over the years. He's kind of been labeled as, like, I'd say this show did for Cyclops what Winter Soldier did for Captain America. Because before Winter Soldier, people were like, Captain America, whatever. Then you see this motherfucker doing all these flips and kicks and shit and bouncing that shield off of people's face from 100 feet away. And you're like, oh yeah, he's a badass. They did that for Cyclops here. The way they, like, the creativity and how he uses his optical blast. Like, I didn't think, even to me, I'm like, him using his blast to, like, maneuver himself around and quickly. I was like, I would have never even thought of that. Like, him using his blast to land from a great distance. I was like, okay, maybe I would have thought of that, but I would never have thought of him, you know, going full John Wick with this optical blast, like, shooting off tiny bursts to, like, get people, like, knock the gun out of people's hands and shit. And, like, it's like, wow, like, there's so much more you can do with that eye burst than I imagine you could do. Like, in my brain, I'm just like, yeah, it's just Cyclops, just, he shoots you, and that's about it. And he might throw a punch or two. Like, you know, the creators behind this put way more thought into how Cyclops' powers could be utilized than I did, because, wow, I never even thought of that. Also seeing Storm be the goddess that she is. Like, Storm is a scary, powerful character in the comics, and in some renditions. Like, you talking about someone who, you know, like, just for a little context here, there's one comic, Storm covered the entire planet in a cloud that caused an ice age. That's how powerful she is when she's trying as hard as she can. But I digress. Great seeing Storm get her shine. Great seeing her look good. Cool seeing Morph too, because we really did, because like a lot of people forget, like Morph died in the very first episode of the 90s show, and by the time he ended up coming back, you really didn't get too much of him, so it's cool seeing a lot of him. Obviously, the MVP episode of the show, Remember It, was just heartbreaking, and it was just extreme. It was mass murder, and it wasn't like, you know, ooh, we're gonna go back in time. No, it was just like a lot of people died, including Gambit. It was nuts. That episode, and from that episode on, the shit just kept getting better and better and better. I'm just like, what the fuck is this show, dude? Like, it went from a fun show to like, yo, this is one of the best things I've ever seen, dude. Like last episode happened, and it even had a great finale. Their finale was so well done, and it wrapped everything up so well that I was just like, I hope y'all can get this writing crew to go write the actual X-Men. I already said it after this show. Like, I'm like, yo, Marvel, MCU proper are gonna have a task on their fucking hands to try to compete with this, right? Like, I don't know. If I was them, I'd have a couple of them writers in the room, man, because it's gonna be hard to make a live-action version as good as this. They gotta figure that shit out, though, man. But I loved it. I give X-Men 97 season 1. It's a 10 out of 10, easy. I mean, it's one of the best shows I've seen this year. It was amazing. The animation style, they managed to somehow capture the old school style. Like, it's 2D, but it's not always 2D. It's 2D until the action starts going off, but like the way they do it, it still looks 2D. It's a very interesting way animation style they went with there. I'm just excited for the second season. The second season is going to be here a lot sooner than people think, simply because they already had it finished up. They had already greenlit it. They had already finished writing the script for it. Like, second season's in the can. The third season, who knows how long that's going to take. But I think they said something like the second season is going to come out like in 1 or 2 years. Animation takes more time than live action, obviously, so you can't just pump that out too quickly. But I'm hearing we're going to get the second season at least 2 years from now. But anyways, thank you guys for joining the Comic Movie Show. Please remember to like and subscribe and comment below. What did you think of X-Men 97? Did you think it lived up to the hype? Is it as great as you hoped it would be? Or are you disappointed? I highly doubt you are, but still, you might be. Anyways, like, comment, subscribe. Thank you guys for joining me on Comic Movie Show. See you in the next one.